Hey, Dan Coccimiglio here, NorCal Sports Network, talking about the San Francisco Giants and who are their free agent targets. Who are the top 5 free agent targets the Giants should be going after? Before we get into this, let us thank our sponsor of this video, Chapman Law Group. Check them out in the description of this video, and please give us a like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. It does help the channel grow. Appreciate that. All right, guys, who are the top 5 Giants that are free agents that the Giants should really be honing in on? Obviously, it's Corbin Burnes right now. There's talk that his signing is imminent. Who's he going to sign with? Is the price tag going up and up? And is that giving Giants ownership some cold feet on this? It looks like he's going to get at least a 7-year deal. And I'm sure to keep the AAV down, it's probably going to have to be closer to an 8-year deal. We'll see how this lands, but Corbin Burnes is number 1 on the San Francisco Giants target. They have to land a starting pitching, an ace at the top of the rotation to go along with Logan Webb if they're going to try to compete in 2024. You've lost Blake Snell. You've got to replace him with a star pitcher. Blake Snell was one of the top pitchers. He was the first off the board in this free agency class, signing with the LA Dodgers. Now, who is Corbin Burnes going to go with? Max Fried's off the board. Luis Severino's off the board. Some of the other pitchers are flying off the board. It's the Giants have to land Burnes. You've already committed that you're not rebuilding. You signed Willy Adames, and you've already signed Matt Chapman for the season ended. Now you've got your left side of the infield wrapped up for the next 6+ years, with Adames being 7 years signed, and both have no trade clauses. So you're not going to do a rebuild. So you have to commit to going all the way. Are you just trying to do this in increments? Are you looking to get established in 24 and then maybe you squeak in to the wild card if you just add Burnes and that's it? Or are you building for the future, waiting till Bryce Eldridge comes and then go after a top free agent possibly in the 2026 season for a Kyle Tucker or Vladdy Guerrero Jr.? Those are the 2 top guys that will be on the market. Are the Giants going to really go all in there? Do they try and make a trade for Vladdy? It's reported that Vladdy Guerrero turned down a $340 million deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. We don't know if that's true or not. If it is true, is this going to be similar to Juan Soto turning down a deal with the Washington Nationals for whatever it was, $440 million over 14 years, something like that? He turned down, parlayed that into 765 a couple years later. So it was worth the wait for Soto. I got to believe if Kyle Tucker enters free agency next year and doesn't sign with his new team, the Chicago Cubs, who just traded for him, I think Kyle Tucker is going to get at least $500 million in the open market. The free agency class is very weak next year. Again, it's Guerrero and Tucker are the top of the class. Not a lot after that. So I thought the Giants should have been in on trying to go get Kyle Tucker and then see if you can offer him a sweetheart deal while you have him in-house, but they didn't do that. Tucker's the better player over Guerrero. So, and he's a perfect fit for the Giants and what they're trying to do. And I would have traded quite a bit just to get Kyle Tucker, even for a year, because the Giants are, the cupboard's empty as far as this team. And I'll go over that shortly in this video. I'm going to show you the Giants' projected lineup. But let's talk about this 5 free agents. We got Burnes, number 1. If Burnes doesn't sign, you're going to have to go after plan B, and that's going to have to be pitching. Well, go back to plan A. Hopefully they can get Burnes and Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki, the Giants and Dodgers have the least amount of international pool money left. They have just over $5 million. Several teams have over 7, and several in the middle have a little over 6 million. But the Giants and Dodgers are the two lowest. So we'll see how that turns out. Also, if you don't get Burnes or Sasaki, you've got to get pitching. Who's the next level? It's Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler, in my opinion. Maybe a Kyle Gibson. You're going to have to add to that. Maybe you want to shore up the bullpen. Maybe you don't get Burnes. Maybe you don't get Sasaki. Maybe you go after a Flaherty and a Buehler, and maybe you save some of that money you were going to pay for Burnes and put it into a Jeff Hoffman, who was with the Phillies, or Tanner Scott from the Padres. Those are both free agents that they should be looking at. And then if you're looking at non-pitching players in the field, I think you got to look at possibly Anthony Santander. I don't know if you want to pay him 5 years. He's 30 years old. He doesn't get on base a ton. Doesn't hit for average, but he does have some pop, 44 home runs last year. And his K rate's much better than most of the San Francisco Giants players. And then you got to look at first base. Are the Giants content going into the season with Lamont Wade Jr. and Wilmer Flores and wait for Bryce Eldridge to come up? We'll see. I think when you're looking at first base, some of the talk has been around Paul Goldschmidt. Now, the reason I'm not super crazy about Paul Goldschmidt is not that I don't like Paul Goldschmidt as a player. It's that Paul Goldschmidt doesn't fit the San Francisco Giants club, in my opinion. Last year, Goldie struck out 173 times, and that is a K rate. With his plate appearances, he had 654. That's 26.4% K rate. So I don't think that's a fit for the Giants. A better fit, in my opinion, that would fill a need for a 1-year gap is Carlos Santana from the Minnesota Twins. If you look at Santana here, let's just take a look at compare him to Paul Goldschmidt. And this is just for last season. We look at Santana's WAR, 2.5 to 1.3. He had 23 homers in about 60 less plate appearances. So he had one more home run. RBIs, he had 71 to 65. Goldschmidt had a little bit more in stolen bases. Batting average, neither one was that great. Near the league average, though. Better on-base percentage for Santana, 328 to 302. Slugging percentage a little better. OPS a little better. And OPS a little better. The reason I like Santana over Goldschmidt is Santana's K rate is 16.6. 16.6, and his career K rate is 16.5. Actually, Santana was 16.7 last year. Very consistent. K rate right around 16.5%. That is a area the Giants definitely need to change. And I will show you what I'm talking about. I put together a lineup, assuming just playing around, seeing if the Giants did actually land Carlos Santana, because they also need a left-handed bat. They need a bat that can go in there and break up some of the right-handed power hitting that the Giants have with Adames, Chapman, and Ramos. And let me show you what I'm talking about here when we talk about the K rates for the Giants. And this is just a little lineup. I'm not sure where Tyler Fitzgerald fits, if he fits first, second, or down at the bottom of the order. I played around with this thinking Jung-Hoo Lee's a great number 2 hitter because he makes contact. If Fitzgerald can cut down on his K rate, look at that K rate, though, 31.6. That's a phenomenal rate there that has to come down. So if you look at this 31.6, but if he can cut that down into the low 20s, cut 10% off of that, I don't know, and change his swing a little bit, make a little more contact. He gets on base. He's a great threat to steal second. Jung-Hoo Lee could move him over or knock him in, base hit for Lee, or move him over with a ground ball to the right side, get runner on third. And then Willy Adames, who was an RBI machine for the Brewers last year, 112 RBIs. I have him batting third. I moved Carlos Santana. And by the way, these are the K rates for the 24 season, okay? So I put Santana at first base with a 16.7. Because look at these K rates. Adames, 25.1. And then Santana, 16.7. You could also go with a Cody Bellinger, who's like 15.5% K rate. But if you go with Goldschmidt over 26%, who's going to – these are rally killers. Look at this. Elliot Ramos, I got him fifth, 26%. Right now, Yaz is the right fielder. I think they may trade him, but that's a high K rate. Matt Chapman at seventh, 24.4. Bailey at eighth, 22.3. And then your DH, Luciano, where's he going to play? But that's a high K rate. You could go with Wilmer Flores, who's only 13.6. And Wilmer in his career is a 13.7. So Wilmer Flores does not strike out. The Giants, or Lamont Wade, 22.4. Giants have to find some guys that do not strike out. Right now, it's Jung-Hoo Lee. You also could go with Luis Matos, which I love. Luis Matos is right around a 13 to 15% K rate. You could move Ramos over to right field, taking Yaz out by trading him or making him a fourth outfielder and putting Luis Matos in the lineup. Matos would then give you another bat in the lineup that doesn't strike out a lot. So you got to have – this is what made the Padres so good last year, the Dodgers as well, and the D-backs, all three of them in the Giants division with a very low K rate. So this is something the Giants need to work on. Tell me what you think about these free agents. Anthony Santander, he's about a 20% K rate. He could fit in there if the Giants want to go that route. It depends on what the Giants' goals are. Are they trying to compete for a World Series by getting into the playoffs, sneaking in? I'll tell you what, if they land Corbin Burnes and Roki Sasaki, if their fortunes fall there, and you add that with Logan Webb and the rest of the pitching staff, that's a three-horse monster that could definitely take down even the mighty LA Dodgers in a short series. Pitching is the key. Giants need to get Burnes. If they can somehow be lucky enough to get Sasaki as well, be a great offseason, even if they don't land anybody else. If it's just Burnes, Sasaki, and Adames, that's a pretty good offseason. But if they can add maybe a Carlos Santana, that would be a plus as well, in my opinion. I don't think Paul Goldschmidt is the answer for the Giants, not because Paul Goldschmidt, and he's a great hitter in Oracle Park. He tears it up in San Francisco. But I don't like those K rates, as I showed you, up and down the lineup. Need to cut down on that. Need to find some guys that make consistent contact. So it's either adding Carlos Santana or Cody Bellinger or putting Luis Matos in the lineup. They've got to find ways to add more guys to make contact. All right, guys, tell us what you think of this video. Please subscribe again to NorCal Sports Network. Really helps the channel. And catch you on the next video. Again, let your comments be known. What do you think about this? The K rates of the Giants? Who would you add? Who would you go after? Who wouldn't you go after? Who are the guys you want to see the San Francisco Giants add in free agency? Still a lot of great people out there, a lot of great players. Let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you later on the next one.